Life is rhythmic. We breathe rhythmically, we sleep rhythmically, we even eat and poop rhythmically. We're so rhythmic, in fact, that almost all facets of living are rhythmic. Everything from body temperature to blood pressure to reaction time to alertness to grip strength, it's all rhythmic. In neuroscience, we call this cycle the circadian rhythm. In humans, our circadian rhythm averages around 24 hours. That's why you tend to get sleepy and hungry at the same times each day. The word circadian comes from Latin, with circa meaning around and diem meaning day. So when someone asks how long your circadian rhythm is, it's easy to remember, oh, around a day. Our circadian rhythm is synchronized by our environment via time cues called zeitgebers. These are things such as sunlight, exercise, food intake, and temperature. When there are no zeitgebers around, our internal rhythm is freerunning. When we are synchronized to the zeitgebers in our external environment, our internal rhythm is entrained. When the zeitgebers are not quite matching up with what our internal clock says, our brains have to re-entrain themselves. This is what's happening during jet lag. So, say I travel from my home state, Washington, to London. I arrive at London at 8 p.m. However, I will feel quite wired because my body will still be entrained to Washington time, which is noon. It may take me a few cycles to re-entrain to London time, so I'm going to be pretty grumpy for a while from disrupted sleep. Yeah, that's great and all, but who's in charge here? Your video titled mentioned something about genes. How are they involved? I am glad you asked. When we encounter a zeitgeber, a multitude of mechanisms are activated to communicate their presence to our internal master clocks called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN for short. So basically, we see sunlight, our eyes tell our SCN there is sunlight, and the SCN tells everything else, hey, there's sunlight. This is done via the signaling of clock genes. We have two main ones, period and cryptochrome, aka purr and cry. These genes are in a self-regulating feedback loop that produces proteins to signal the time of day to the rest of your body. They can be activated by light, and so that's why looking at your phone right before you go to sleep can mess up your internal clock. So what exactly is happening in the self-regulating feedback loop? The purr and cry genes cannot be active until two proteins named clock and BMAL1 are bound together, or think of it like holding hands. These two proteins form a complex that then activates the genes. The activated purr and cry genes produce copies of their DNA onto messenger RNA, also known as mRNA. So think of it like this. The purr and cry genes give the mRNA instructions on how to make their matching proteins. The mRNA then exits the nucleus and shows the ribosome, which is just a part of the cell, the instructions, and the ribosomes are like, okay, bet, and then they make the purr and cry proteins. The purr and cry genes give the instructions, the mRNA takes it to the factory, and the factory makes the purr and cry proteins. The purr and cry proteins then hold hands and go back into the nucleus to block clock and BMAL1 from holding hands and thus stop the production of mRNA because clock and BMAL have to be holding hands in order for the purr and cry genes to be active. Fortunately, the purr and cry proteins degrade quickly and the cycle starts all over again with clock and BMAL holding hands, activating the purr and cry genes, mRNA being sent out, and purr and cry proteins being produced to block clock and BMAL from holding hands. This whole cycle takes about 24 hours, and it is to this gene-protein cycle upon which our entire circadian rhythm is based. And that's that. If y'all find this interesting, please let me know. I'm a big science fan, and honestly, I'm trying something new out today. So if you like this, make sure to leave a comment below and let the algorithm know by liking the video. And yeah, I hope you have a fantastic day. SciShow, please hire me.